we've heard about all of these resources. Can you just speak to, for using whatever lens you want, some of the resources that you've utilized personally, through your community, through your various roles that you serve?
I'll start out, Nick. I wanted to say here at the end of the summit is that I think all that the county is doing regarding housing investment really reflects a very strong balance of public sector, private sector, and nonprofit sector participation. And that is really important moving forward, because as we look for resources to accomplish a variety of housing developments and needs and investment, it's important to look at who is the right partner, what scale and what timing to financial resources or funding that's going to fit what the need is. In my role at the Otter County HRA, oftentimes communities come to us and say, hey, can you help us? And Val talked about an example at Battle Lake, and other communities have too. So myself, Amy, Tanya, and our team, we try and assess what capacity can we bring technical assistance to the community, as well as what are the right partnerships and the right funding. So you've already heard today about the Community Impact Fund and the role that plays in affordable home ownership. We also historically have been a consistent participant in the use of small city development program funds, which are crucial for housing rehab and commercial rehab in downtown in the communities across the county. And so over, I think, the last 12 to 15 years, that's been an investment of at least $1 million each of those funding rounds. And then the Otter County HRA has historically supported that with additional funds to help stretch the funds from the state to make an even greater impact. And then I'll say a state program that is kind of behind the scenes, but the lenders in the county operate the Minnesota Cities Participation Program, which is a first-time home buyer program. And again, that's another $1 million of new housing investment for first-time home buyers who then get a smaller interest rate on the mortgage. So new is housing infrastructure bonds, which Deputy Commissioner talked about this morning, and one of the eligible uses is affordable senior housing. So that is a new resource that we want to explore. We did make an initial application for affordable senior housing triplexes across the county in three communities. We were not funded, but there's intense competition one time a year. So we are going to fire up and make another application this summer. And then I just want to close out by saying the county now is providing, as you know, a significant amount of assistance for new housing investment. And one of those is the Housing Trust Fund that the Otter County HRA administers on behalf of the county board. So that is an eligible resource for new development in the county. And we also use our levy, HRA, a levy to help with rehab and down payment assistance. And so I'll close with a portion of the levy too funds the technical capacity that myself, Amy, and our team provide. We are right there, we want to be right there with communities to leverage these state, private, and nonprofit resources as much as possible.
So I can speak to a couple of resources that the community of New York Mills has used over the years. So, and part of my role as being on the CDA board and really being deeply involved in that work and then being in a community, I feel fortunate that I have firsthand knowledge of these resources. So I also try to get out there and beat that drum about what resources are available. And I'm going to say that I think the number one resource is the team. So the fact that we have people we can call any day, email them, call them, text them, and they're going to get us an answer pretty quickly. I don't know about all of you, but living in a small community, I feel like there's always, and working for a nonprofit organization, it seems like there's always a lack of capacity to be able to do all the things that we know are out there, or even access the funds that are out there. So having a team that we can call that understands those resources, or at least can point us in the right direction, I actually think is the number one thing that is provided through the county. So I'm really grateful for that. And then we also have taken advantage of community growth partnership grants in New York Mills. We've built a child care center that was a partnership between the city, private, county funds. So that was really a successful endeavor. And we also got an infrastructure grant, as you heard earlier, for the new South Point expansion. So we really are trying to take advantage of all those opportunities that are out there on a city level. And the Cultural Center too did a business resiliency grant during the pandemic timing. So I think really, again, just getting that information out to people so you know what's available and knowing there's a team here to help you out is probably one of the most important things.
And I'm going to speak a little bit about my personal journey and how, as an individual, or rather as a family, my husband and I and our kids leverage resources. So when I took a job at Otter County and we decided we were going to embark on this great adventure and move here, we had land because someday we were going to maybe build a little retirement shack. But that's really all we had. And I'm grateful we had that, because given how things are in today's world and this environment, it was a lot of frantic fumbling and bumbling from the perspective of, oh my gosh, we need a place to live. And we need a place to live in about 2.5 weeks. So some of the resources, and it is a process. As someone who never aspired to build a house, learned a lot along the way, but there are so many resources to people who are looking to build, and we are on a mission to make sure that people are aware of those. So whether that's you as a builder or a financer sharing that information, or whether it's sharing it at church or at school with your neighbors, there are so many resources available. We were able to take advantage of the property tax rebate incentive program. And then I also want to talk a little bit about my brother. So I have a brother who has lived his entire life here in Otter County, and his entire adult life. And he's been renting and thinking, well, I'm a single guy, I don't know, a mortgage, and so that's a lot of responsibility, and there's a reason I'm not married and I don't have kids, and what if I can't afford a duck blind and a deer hunting stand, and it was very stressful. And my brother, I'm super proud of him. He's my baby brother, and he is a working man. He pounds shingles every day, and he works very hard. And he was nervous too about financing. Like, I don't think my credit's that good. I don't know what I qualify for. And I think he had put it out of his mind that he was ever going to own his own place. And he found an old schoolhouse that was abandoned, and working with the county and the different programs and bringing him down and walking him down to talk to the different directors of the different departments to say, how would this work? He needed to get a surveyor out there. There were so many steps involved, but a long story short, or as one of my colleagues says, long story long, he did buy an old, run-down, abandoned schoolhouse that he is now gutting completely and rebuilding, which is very exciting. It's all sweat equity. I did tell him we were going to do a tour of homes after this and then do happy hour at his place. And I think he went into a full-on panic attack and said, you can't bring anybody over. It's really a mess right now. So he took advantage of the same thing that I did, that property tax rebate incentive, but also sewer and septic. I got to look up the actual name of the program. There's a couple of them, the CWP loan program, the Minnesota Clean Water Partnership and Minnesota Pollution Control Agency, which is a zero-interest loan to property owners to replace non-compliant subsurface sewage treatment systems. SSTS. Yeah, that's what that stands for. Like navigating this and doing that together was a learning experience and paid off so much. And then the other one, that cost share fix-up fund program, he qualified for all of those. And that made it much more accessible, much more palatable, you know, figuring out how to do all of that. And he knows more than I do. Yeah, I just want to make those plugs for our programs.
Great, thank you. So, again, all of these people stuck around to listen to what you have to say. So what is the what is the most important thing that you can think of to make housing happen and to really take advantage of these resources? So what's the one thing that they can leave with that you say, Betsy said this is the most important?
Partnerships. No, I'll say a little more. I really do think partnerships are what we're doing right in Otter Tail County. So I don't know about you guys, but when Kelly was talking, which was so engaging, I really felt kind of proud of where Otter Tail County is in addressing a lot of these things that we've been talking about for a decade. And we've really taken an active role to address these challenges at all the levels. So the county's doing it, the cities are doing it, the private businesses are doing it, nonprofits are doing it, we're all doing it together, and I think that's the way it's going to continue to be successful. So that's what I would say, partnerships.
I would echo that and say what usually is behind the partnership is a shared vision and a shared will. So coming together and having that desire, painting a picture for what we want in our community. We at Otter Tail County absolutely want to be part of that, want to be partners, want to support it, figuring out how the communities within our community set that shared vision, and really that's the fuel in the engine.
And so I'll conclude that by saying it's the political will, the public will, to make a decision to move toward housing investment goals. And we heard a lot of examples today of some success stories, but those things take time. So it's not only important to have the vision, the list of things to do, but it's also this is going to contradict itself, but also the sense of urgency and patience at the same time. The sense of urgency to look for those short-term wins that helps to build a success path to what you're trying to accomplish. So assessing what's going on in the city is very important, and making a list is important too. Change happens, nothing is static. So what that means is that the community has to commit to that vision, that list of things to do, and stay the course. And that's the patience. The timing, as you heard today on some of the funding, is a one-time competitive round. There are other sources that are available more often, or the nonprofit folks or the private folks can fill a gap. And coordinating all of that and timing in dealing with supply chain issues, cost issues, labor issues, and the moving parts is a challenge. But for me, I think based on my experience, that political will and commitment to the long term serves a community well.
Great, thank you. So we had a former commissioner who was very involved with the creation of the big build and was very passionate about this housing development. And one of the things, he loved math, and one of the things he used to do was calculate how much of our tax dollars were going down to St. Paul for various programs. And in his mind, we were successful, or at least we weren't failing, as long as we made sure we got more money out of St. Paul than we were sending down there. We just heard a deputy commissioner talk about $1 billion investment in housing. Some of those dollars came from here. And so my question is, we need to be prepared to get those dollars back to Otter Tail County, into our communities, into our townships. And so how prepared, I guess from your lens and your different seats, how prepared are we to be successful in making sure that there's this significant investment to make sure that we can support our communities, private sector developers, to get those dollars back here to make sure that our tax dollars are coming back to Ottertail County?
So I'm biased. I work for Ottertail County. I love where I work. I love the people I work with. I think it's a fantastic place with fantastic people. And we make a very concerted strategic effort to make sure that we've got relationships with our legislative representatives and the professional associations that we're part of, whether that's a human services or a probation or a public health or a housing association. We are actively involved in making sure that Ottertail County is seen and influencing down at the Capitol. That's an investment, and when it comes to the service team that I get to lead, the health and wellness team, how we work together and approach that together is a critical part of the work. So each of those pieces, public health, human services, veterans services, the extension office, how do we strategically make sure that we are aligned so that we are maximizing every opportunity to bring those back in? We spend a lot of time talking about social determinants of health and how it's all interconnected. So whether whether we're down there having conversations and leverage and looking to leverage and maximize dollars for childcare or for transportation or for people with developmental disabilities, how we make those connections and look at that housing is a social determinant of health, and people's ability to be thriving, resilient members of community really means maximizing all of those dollars and connecting those. We were just talking on the break about a family resource center and what that could mean in our community. One example I'll give of some actual money that we have brought in, and it's temporary money. It's 5 years of funding. It's called the Local Homeless Prevention Aid money. It is based on two things. There are two counts that every county reports to the state each year. One of them is called a point-in-time count, where you go into your homeless shelters and you count how many people are sleeping there on one particular night in January. We don't have any homeless shelters in Ottertail County. So that is not going to be a data point that drives our funding when it comes to homeless populations. But the other thing that you count is your number of students in your school districts who are designated as homeless or highly mobile. And so working with our school districts, with the superintendents, with the middle school office lady who counts the attendance each day, with the principals, really making sure that we are seeing those kids and we're counting them has literally doubled the amount of money that we're bringing into Ottertail County from last year to this year. And then we go to the Family Services Collaborative, and we make we have conversations to make decisions with our partners to say, we brought this money in, we've got it for 5 years, what should we do with it? Where should we put this money? Where should we target it that's going to have the most impact for your students who are part of families, who are part of your community? So that's one example.
So I would consider myself the average Jane up here on the panel. So I don't work for Ottertail County. I don't work in housing every day. However, I've had the opportunity to be involved in these boards where I have learned a lot about it, and I think the county does a really good job of getting the information out there to people if you're willing to engage and listen. I also think there's relationships that have been built. So Senator Rasmussen led an event here a couple weeks ago that maybe some of you were at, and that was all about how to access state and federal funding for our communities. So we have engaged people in the state legislature that are trying to help us get those funds here, and we have an organized team here on the county in many different levels that are doing that work. So I think that the organization around these resources is really there for us at the county level, which is what government should do and should provide. And then it's that regular access to the team that we can always reach out and learn more about the opportunities that are available. I feel like I have that, I always try to know enough to be dangerous and know who to call.
The county board has adopted a long-range strategic plan, and the HRA board and the CDA board have adopted strategic initiatives not only to create new homes, which we've talked a lot about today, but also to keep folks in their homes. So it's the existing housing stock that is just as important as creating new homes, as Kelly talked about as well. Across the spectrum, if you look at your communities and think about who is struggling to find a home, it might be for an apartment. And we are in short supply of rental opportunities. So is there the existing stock that homes that can be available or rehabilitated to create new rental units? And the rental assistance programs are critical for that. Somebody that has a minimum wage job, that they're trying to find a unit that is more in line with their income. So it's really important to stretch the resources across the spectrum as folks go through the housing ecosystem. And it's no accident that our questions this morning to our speakers, our main speakers, were about the critical needs that are facing the county: workforce housing, affordable senior housing, and affordable home ownership. And I would, so not only do we have to activate creating new homes, we also have to activate creating affordable rental homes as well.
Great. So my last question, and then we'll turn it over to these folks to make sure we can get out of here on time. Assuming we do another one of these in a year, what progress do you hope that we see? So we did a little bit of a look back, Amy shared earlier. What progress do you hope we see in a year from now?
So one of the things that we did this past year that I'm super proud of, I think Barbara's proud of it, Amy should be proud of it. We went through, and there was some, gnashing of teeth and pulling of hair along the way. We conducted an assessment out in the community, which we call Finding Home. And it was very multidisciplinary in how we approached it. We had people from all different sectors of government at the table, really trying to answer the question and then going out into community and interviewing people and surveying people to say, when you are trying to find home, what is getting in the way? What are the barriers to finding home? Which isn't always finding a house, right? Home and house, in my mind, are not always the same thing. And certainly we got a lot of really good data out of that. And there are different, there are different pieces or parts of a population, different communities within communities that might be disenfranchised for different reasons and struggle or experience barriers for different reasons. We are just now on the cusp of figuring out, what do we do with this? Where do we take all of our collective resources that we have, and what do we tackle? How do we, go broad, but also narrow enough that we can make an impact? And so I would hope that a year from now, we've made progress on that as an organization, and it won't be those of us who work for Otter Tail in isolation. It's really going to be bringing the results of that study back to you and saying, how can we work together? What does the partnership look like to make progress on this?
So I would say I'd like to see further progress on these goals, right? The big build was a big goal, and it's exciting to see that we're 45% of the way there. So I'd like to see that number grow in the next year, of course. And then I think too about how we look at housing, we look at workforce, childcare, digital equity, welcoming communities, putting Otter Tail County on the map. All those different strategies work so well together, and they all rely upon each other. So I would like to see continued progress on all of those goals. I'm on the workforce subcommittee, and I think there's really exciting things happening with youth workforce and accessing or providing access to those workforce skills to all different types of people in the county. So I think it's just continued progress against all of these goals. and also ensuring that all the communities in Otter Tail County are accessing these programs, because it's exciting, and there is that sense of pride when you see your own community up in the slideshow, and I think I'd like that to be spread across all of Otter Tail County, because as we all grow, we all benefit from that. So those are kind of the things that I'd like to see in the next year.
A rising tide lifts all boats, correct? And the communities, you are all engaged in this effort, and that is very inspiring. A year from now, and we're being recorded, so, or maybe not, so I don't want Amy to resent me.
You're being recorded, but the audio won't work next year, so don't worry about it.
So it would be wonderful to see progress being made on the needs that we have in the county for workforce housing, affordable senior housing, affordable home ownership, and then looking at the issue of a navigator or connecting better people that need different affordability of homes in the county.
Thank you. So 2 things. You can say what you hope in a year from now, what progress we've made or what we see. I'd certainly be interested in that. We've got lots of stakeholders here and decision makers from the CDA board, HRA boards, commissioners, elected officials. So you can share that, or we could use the last 15 minutes asking questions of these 3, whatever you want. Questions? Or we just end early. Think you did your job? Last chance? See if you just wait long enough.
So my question has to do with your brother.
Yes, he is single and available.
That's not the question.
Sorry.
So the question I have about your brother is, if you weren't here, and that's what I think. I'm a developer in Perham, and the problem that I see is that we have a lot of good information, but no significant way to get it out to an individual. So your brother had you to walk him through that process. Is there anybody anywhere that can take somebody else's brother and walk them through the process, and can we put them on a billboard saying, we can help you get into a house?
I appreciate the question, and I will say, and I get a little vulnerable talking about myself and my family. It's easier to talk about work. I've shared his story, and as I was trying to help him navigate this at work, I think that's where the Sarahs and the Amys and the Nicks and even Commissioner Mortensen have heard about his journey and said, you got to talk about this. You're a real life use case. That has informed some of the conversations we have. So when you walk in the shoes of your clients, when you walk alongside someone who's trying to navigate it, you get better at how you do your customer service. And as Barbara mentioned, a housing navigator, we have shared dreams and vision about around hiring a housing navigator who's a little bit social work and helping connect you with resources, because it's not just the housing. It's the electric, and it's it's all these other things that might come along with that. It's a little bit social worker. It's a little bit case manager. It's a little bit of a resource expert. Those pieces, yeah. I would say that the last 2 years journeying this and figuring it out has very much been an ongoing conversation that I hold him up and say, I'll say, if it takes me a long time to read the name of the title of the program and have to stumble, maybe, is there a way we can give it a sexier name, right? Thank you for the question.
Other questions? I think we're good. Thank you to our panel.